To be frank, Mafia Mama doesn't really feel like something that should have been released theatrically, since it more has the vibe of something that will be a streaming platform release that has moderate success, but ultimately is something that kind of disappears into the ethos. To summarize the film, Kristen's life is in need of a midlife crisis. She hates her job because her boss and coworkers are misogynistic. Her husband Paul is more dependent on them than their kid Dominic, and while Dominic is a silver lining in Kristen's life, he's about to be off to college, and he, without saying it, makes it very clear that he wants space. So when Bianca calls Kristen about her grandfather dying in Italy, this seems like a good opportunity to try to get away from everything. But no sooner than Kristen's arrival, she learns her family's at the brink of war because of her cousin Fabrizio, who is very upset that he's not going to become the head of the family. And Kristen is thrusted into a position where that has her life threatened, has her trying to deal with an import-export business, as well as a winery which is absolutely terrible. But while a lot of this just kind of increases all the stress that she's been under, and in some ways how unhappy she is, in time she adapts. And probably what helps as a turning point is that after about 3 years of not having sex or any real intimacy, she gets multiple chances of that, and that helps create the silver lining beyond what her son was able to provide, since she gets it in a few times. So in terms of why Mafia Mama is rated R, cursing throughout, duh, as well as gun violence, blood, and also people getting dismembered. In terms of sexual content, there is foreplay, but as for like sex, even in a softcore sense, not really. And in terms of miscellaneous stuff, there is drinking and smoking. Now, in terms of highlights, the first thing that I have to say is a highlight is that even though Mafia Mama is hour 41 minutes, it flies right by. And partly it's because the violence and the way the comedy is handled, it has the movie speed through everything. And even as the film switches from Kristen kind of being a fish out of water to starting to kind of adapt to being a mafia boss, that whole arc is not handled in a way which tries to draw things out. By no means is Mafia Mama a drama. It does have some, I would say, some not even heavy or dramatic moments. While you can definitely see it has, for lack of a better way of putting it, kind of a coming of age type of thing as Kristen is adapting, it's never heavy to the point where it slows down. It just keeps things going at a pace where you're allowed to breathe, you're not out of breath like some type of crazy blockbuster movie, but it recognizes that it may not have the allowance to slow things down or really like explore how Kristen feels, so it just keeps it going and does enough for you to recognize that she's going through a lot, is definitely overwhelmed, but she's trying her best. With that said, like its title, Mafia Mama can be a little weak, maybe even a little cringy. But again, as Kristen gets acclimated to being a Don, and there's a shift in the film, that could potentially make or break it for you. Either you will like how, even if she relies heavily on luck, Kristen gets good at being ahead of a family, or you'll think this film is too ridiculous. To me, the whole fish out of water story is thoroughly entertaining, especially as Kristen embraces her rage while still being the kind of nurturing woman that she is. For her version of Eat, Pray, Love could be considered imperfect when it comes to watching this film, but it has Toni Collette as a star, and who does imperfect characters better than her? Overall, when it comes to Mafia Mama, it is definitely not made to be for everyone. The comedy is kind of corny, as the name for a movie Mafia Mama is, and as much as you can praise Toni Collette for taking what is an imperfect character in a very potentially niche movie and trying to make the best of it, she succeeds sometimes, she doesn't in other ways, and Again, as I said in the overview, this doesn't really feel, at least in 2023, like a movie that should have been released in theaters. But I'm not gonna say it's a bad movie. It's just average, forgettable. And I wouldn't go as far to say it's mediocre, but it just doesn't have anything that makes it stand out to the point where you would really want to recommend this movie, watch it more than once. Or if you're not a Toni Collette fan or maybe someone else involved, honestly, I couldn't even imagine you going out of your way to watch it. But if you have the time and you don't mind movies that are a little bit corny, this isn't something bad to watch, especially since the pacing of it is rather good. The violence is definitely a little bit surprising considering how the comedy is, but I mean, if you can watch it for free on like Showtime, Stars, Netflix, wherever this ends up, it's worth it. It ain't worth paying for on its own, but it's worth it if it's part of a package you already paid for.